All right. Hello. So,
Hello.
Hello.
hello. Who is
That
that?
was Emma.
Yeah, that was me.
Fantastic. All right. Let me just open with prayer. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you for your protection. Thank you. We have this opportunity to sit, discuss, um, just study at your feet. Hopefully, we learn things that we can apply and make our lives, our community better for knowing them. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Cool. So last week we started this conversation and discussion on justice. And justice as described, defined in the Bible. Um, so today hopefully we'll have a bit more time to look through some different scenarios and see how we think through them, react through them, those sort of things. Just want to do a quick recap of some of the things that we discussed in the first part, and then we'll just kind of extend one or two things there. So we talked about justice as defined in the as defined in the Bible. Um, it is in the Hebrew word that is in the Bible, Old Testament or Hebrew Bible, Mishpat, which means it's like the establishment or restoration of a fair, equitable, and harmonious relationship in society. And it also means judgment in the sense of balancing or working to resolve conflicts, either social or economic. Right. So we looked at justice in that regard. We also looked again at the fact that in the Bible, justice is always mentioned next to righteousness. Justice and righteousness kind of go hand in hand. And we kind of talked um, about being in tzedakah, being in right relationship. So justice is kind of like the acts you take to achieve right relationship. So righteousness is like a standard. Justice are the things that you do to achieve that standard, if that makes sense. So in the Bible, tzedakah, which is translated to righteousness, is like the responsibility of a relationship towards justice. So it's kind of being in right relation with others, being in right relationship with God, being in right relationship with community. They're kind of all linked together. So we looked through quite a lot of verses, chapters from the Old Testament when especially the prophets, they talk a lot about justice and righteousness, right? We looked in Isaiah, we looked in Micah, we looked in Amos, we looked through quite a few things that a few things where we see the Bible talking again about justice and righteousness. So anyone got any questions on some of the things we discussed last week? Maybe. No.
No,
Cool.
all good.
All right. Cool. I guess Emma, you weren't really here last week. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah, so far, yes.
Okay, cool, fantastic. So one of the things we did last week was we briefly just talked about this word dikaiosynē, which is the translation of which is what is used in the New Testament. So we're going to do a little bit of a focus here today, and then we will look. We did some scenarios last week just to get our views on what we think about different things, how we
Yes,
see
yes,
different things, and
scenarios.
how we do different things. So we're going to do much more of that. We have quite a few of those scenarios to like kind of get through today. So hopefully we'll have a good discussion, and hopefully we can take like what our mindset of what a Christian community should look like and some of that. Okay. But before that, we're just going to look at in I think there's a question that came out at the end, which I suppose that was posted on the WhatsApp group, and by I think by Tresan. But I think that we can kind of look into that a little bit. I think actually maybe I should read the question. Maybe that can help. That can help our discussion. Let me see. Sorry, I should plan something sometimes. Okay, so the question was the definition of righteousness as right standing with God, in a sense that Jesus died for us, so now we are automatically right with God. How does this compare with righteousness in terms of my relationship with others? So there is kind of almost I would say there's a view of righteousness. Again, there's this view of righteousness that is kind of like a very personal thing between you and God. Now, when you read the Old Testament a lot, it is obvious that that's not the case. But a lot of people, when they read the New Testament, they don't kind of, or at least the way the New Testament has been attributed to us, you don't kind of get that sense. It almost seems like if it's just between you and God. And I sometimes get this from, I would say, some of Paul's writing, I would say misunderstanding of it. But it's a very big and charged word, righteousness and all these things in the New Testament, especially from Paul. There's a lot of arguments from people about this. So we're not going to focus into all of that. We're just going to try and focus on, a bit of some bits on the top and just the way Jesus sees it. And I suppose those are easier to see. Paul's letters, they need more deeper dive for us to get through, what he's actually talking about. Rather, I don't want to do any disservice by just picking out one verse here and, trying to get meaning of what he's saying about righteousness. That will not make any sense. So, okay. Anyways, so as we know, the Old Testament is written in Hebrew mostly, a little bit of Aramaic. The New Testament is written in mostly Greek, Koine Greek, as they'll say. So while Old Testament there's this differentiation between justice and righteousness in terms of the word Mishpat, which means justice, and Tzedakah, which means righteousness, and they have their own traditions around them. And we talked about Tzedakah even in Hebrew. If you want to, what we talk about giving charity, doing charity, it is actually Tzedakah, righteousness. That's the way they translate that word to charity. So if you do charity, when you give alms and all that, you're doing righteousness, because those are the things that are set out. So I'll kind of do a little bit of a dive on some of the ways they saw righteousness. Right. But here, one of the other issues that we have, I need to just point this out. This is not to give any, I don't want to bring any discouragement in terms of reading or what's the word I'm going to use? No, I don't want to remove confidence in terms of how we read or what we get from the Bible, but just to highlight some things. So in the New Testament, the word that we read when we are reading righteousness, the original Greek word there is this word dikaiosynē. Or when you hear about a righteous person or a just person, is dikaios. So this word is actually very big and very deep. It actually covers both righteousness and justice. So it's not just righteousness. And the translators of the Bible had to decide when to use righteousness and when to use justice. They went with righteousness most of the time. Now, from my understanding, is that there's a lot of influence. I think this is later influence because of some of the Reformation movements that's come out through Germany, Martin Luther, and all that stuff. So the reason why I say that is, if you look at Spanish, and so the Spanish Bibles and French Bibles, most of the time the word dikaiosynē is translated to justice. They do have their own version of righteousness, but they don't translate it as such. So I'll show you some examples. This is just to give a little bit more context so that we don't. So let's go to. It doesn't matter. Let's go to anyone. So if you look at this one, it talks about righteous. Oh no, not that one. Okay, we can try this one. So we're going to be looking at some of the things Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount. So we can look at this. I thought they had. Okay. So this is like a Spanish translation. So you can see all the English one, they go justice, righteousness, righteousness. Spanish goes for justice, yeah, which is justice. I think if you see a French translation, they also go for. Oh, okay. This English one has gone for justice. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. So we know blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They go with blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. So this is New Living Translation. So if you see Spanish, French, and some other kind of European that are not very influenced by German traditions, they've gone with they've kind of gone with justice. And if you read in so you have if you guys know the philosopher Plato, he has a whole book about philosophical book about justice. Obviously he's written in Greek, and the Greek word dikaiosynē there is translated to justice. So so there are some places where righteousness, you can make a case that righteousness is the right translation. There are some places where you can also make an argument that justice is the right translation. But we've gone, the New Testament, especially a lot of a lot of the Bibles have gone a lot with righteousness more than justice. So the word actually means, kind of covers and encapsulates both in it. Anyways, okay. So just so here, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Like this one, blessed are those who hunger, who are persecuted for righteousness. So if you think about it, how many, who gets persecuted for their own righteousness? So if we look at the way we see righteousness as like, you're being upright with you and God and that sort of thing, you're not bothering anybody, so people don't really get persecuted for that. When you start seeking for justice, though, and you start trying to make changes in society or trying to set up things in society so that people will get justice, that's when trouble comes. So I'll put that for one side. But again, I'll just go back to this. Again, obviously, this is going off the basis of what we saw last week. So when Jesus comes on the scene, the first thing he does, he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And he Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." Okay. So again, we've gone back to this, something that we've seen a lot in the new in the Old Testament. This good news to the poor, the prisoners, recovery of sight to the blind, set the oppressed free. These kind of things, the whole idea, and Jesus puts this at the top of what his ministry was about. We've seen last week we did a whole trace through the, or like 2 weeks ago we did a whole trace through the old Old Testament, seeing how all these themes just develop, with the prophets talking about it over and over again. Now, there's one thing that I just think is very important to mention again, so that we can get some context for this. For the people. So as I said, righteousness is the standard that you get, right? When you go to court, so you don't get prosecutors bringing a case against you. I'm looking at this tradition in the Old Testament tradition, and this time, when somebody brings a case against you, not a prosecutor, so your fellow, someone within the community, will bring a case against you to the court. So you'll be a defendant and you'll stand accused based on someone else's allegation. The court's decision, if they don't find anything wrong in what you've done, the court will declare you righteous because you've met the standard. Do you understand? The court will declare you righteous. Do you know? Does anyone know why? So the reason why the court will declare you righteous, remember the instructions and the setup of this society was based on the laws that have come through the covenants that God has given them. So when you go to the law courts, the thing that will be looked at, remember when we went through the laws in Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, the things that will be looked at are the things, or the law or the instructions by which the judge will use to make his ruling is based on what is written by the laws that have been passed down from God through Moses, right? So if you meet the standard in what you do, or if you've not fallen short, you will be declared righteous. And so you leave the court based on that court making you righteous. Get it? Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Jesus comes onto the scene, and Jesus almost comes in to fulfill the law. Jesus' death on the cross is kind of the place where God's justice and God's love and mercy and all that just converge. But the thing is, like, Jesus' death on the cross kind of gives us that sense of righteousness, but it's kind of a different sense, in that we're in a community and we're in a relationship. Anyone following what I'm saying?
So can you repeat that one more time?
So okay, so the Jesus' death on the cross when you go to the court, based on the law, you're righteous based on the law. So if you're meeting up all the things that are written in the law, in the instructions, that is where that declares your righteousness. However, Jesus comes to replace that, or to fulfill it. But Jesus doesn't just fulfill it, he takes the laws further. These things are meant to be written on your heart, deep down inside your heart, and he takes the law further. Now, us choosing to live by Jesus's commandment and by, to be in that relationship with Jesus makes us righteous. But the thing is, this righteousness doesn't mean that that's the end. This is righteous, but we're in relationship. So, so a lot of we look at this concept a lot of the time as so this is going back to the question that was posted as well. Sometimes we kind of look at the kind of discussion that we have is like, oh, Jesus died on the cross, and now that I'm Christian and I confess Jesus, that's the end of that. I'm made righteous. He has paid the debt. That's the end of that. And that's kind of from a mindset of, oh, I've confessed the right thing. Now my place in heaven is secure, and that's the end of the story. And that's not the right mindset that we should have. The mindset should be one of, um, so I would say again, I would say that that's the mindset of like a bank, you finishing paying off your bank loan or your student debt. Let's say a bank forgives your student debt. You'll be grateful, but at the end of your relationship with that bank or pay institution or whatever. But in this is in but if let's say you're in relationship with a friend, a spouse, or anything, if they forgive your debt, or if they, you borrow some money, say don't worry, you don't have to pay back, or they give you a gift, that does not end your relationship. That only helps to enhance that relationship. You understand? So
Yeah.
your gift doesn't seek obligation. Your gift, even though the person has given you a gift, or your gift to the person doesn't seek obligation from that person. Like it doesn't, it's not a physical contract, but behind it there's always a thing like, okay, this should help our relationship, this person will do, and relationship works by you, the person also doing something that you like in the future. It'd be nice if the person bought you a gift in the future. It'd be nice if the person forgive you your debt. Like the relationship you have demands some sort of behavior. Do you understand? At least acknowledge it's my birthday. I might not need a gift or that sort of thing. Like it's not really transactional in that sense. It's just relationship. It's relationship, right? Like if you're in relationship with somebody, there needs to be something different about the way you guys act with each other, right? Rather than someone you don't know. So if I don't know you, but I know it's your birthday, it doesn't really matter. Or I don't know. I don't know why I'm using birthday, but you understand that sort of thing. Like if you know me and you see me on the train, the relationship demands that you say what's up, right?
Yes.
But you're not going to go on the train and say what's up to everybody because you don't know everybody there. You understand?
Some people might.
Oh
Yeah.
no, not in this COVID era.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But that's a relationship. Like there's some things that needs to be done in relationship to foster relationship to go forward, to keep that relationship alive. And so when we talk about Jesus's death on the cross and the righteousness he gives us and all those things, that's not where the story ends. It's not okay, I've got this ticket, my bank debt is paid. It is part of a relationship, and that part of that relationship goes further into Jesus saying, if you love me, you have to keep my commandments. Right? And that's if you want to, if you're in a relationship with some people, you have to know the way they are, the way they act, the things they like, the things they don't like, and that makes that go better. Now, and part of the things that we have to keep in being in this relationship with God, with Jesus, is the standards of justice, the things that get you to the standard of righteousness. So it isn't like it's the things that get you to decide to, or the things that get you to do justice and keep that standard of righteousness. We've seen that all through the Old Testament. This is very, very important to God. When Jesus comes on the scene, this is the first thing. This is like the first public declaration he does, is to read from Isaiah. And he does that. There's one more public declaration, one more thing that Jesus says that I want us to look at. But I'm just going to go to this. Just read this. So we know this parable very well. No, we're not going to go through the whole thing. Just want to look at some elements to it. When the Son of Man comes in glory and all the angels are with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him. He will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He'll put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Then the righteous, then the righteous will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Then he will say to those on the left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not look after me. They will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? He will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. So again, we can see this standard again being said. These are all the things, again, as we've seen from the Old Testament. We saw from Job's talk last time. These are all the things that the righteous, that leads you to a standard of justice. These are the things for doing justice, that you fed the poor, that we fed we've clothed those who didn't have clothes, take care of the fatherless, and take care of the widows. All these things, these are the things that lead to the standard of justice. Those are the things that declare you righteous. Now, how does I know the question will be, how does Jesus' death on the cross change that? When you're in this relationship with God, in relationship with Jesus, you will do these things, right? Okay. Now, the other thing to look at here, we're going to look on the topic of hell and heaven later at some point. When a lot of people tell this parable, one of the things that they always miss this, or I guess a lot of people don't pay attention to it. Who is gathered before Jesus? All of you have heard this parable before, but who is gathered before Jesus? I'll scroll down.
All the nations.
The nations are gathered before Jesus.
Yes, it looks like.
All right. So there's a lot to unpack here, but that's for a different session. A lot of people use this as something to talk about heaven and hell. You can do that, but not. But the nations are the ones gathered before judgment, not the individuals. Okay.
Mhm.
But we still see the standards. We still see the theme running through from the Old Testament into the New Testament about justice, the things you do, and the people that a just society is a society, and a just nation is a nation that takes care of those who are on the margins. Remember, we talked about that. Those who are on the margins. That's how you determine whether a nation, a society, a community, a people, that they are just. Those who have no source or have no way to take care of themselves, all those who have found themselves in vulnerable positions, like the prisoners in this situation, those who are sick, those who don't have clothes to wear, those who don't have food to eat, that there's a way for them to be taken care of by the community. That is the community that is just, where justice is flowing. But when there's no justice, those people are being abused or oppressed or stuff like that. You understand? Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, any questions? They're talking for a while. To drink some water as well.
No, it's good. It's clear.
Okay. Last thing that I just want us to do is, again, just to look at one more concept that doesn't look like one more concept. So Jesus is asked, Where is that now? Okay. Jesus is asked about, he's challenged about what is the greatest commandment. And you guys know this, someone said this on the Wednesday Zone of Power. And Jesus responds with the Shema, hear, O Israel, and all, and love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And then he said the other greatest commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. All right. And they go into a question. The person comes back to Jesus, like, who is your neighbor? And we know Jesus goes on to tell the story of the Good Samaritan and that sort of thing. Okay. But love your neighbor as yourself. When Jesus says love your neighbor as yourself, he's actually, we've done this before. He's actually quoting Jesus is actually quoting the Old Testament, and he's quoting Leviticus 19. And in there, we'll see chapter 18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone, but love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. So for us as English speakers, there is I keep saying this, but I guess the more I say it, I'm just going to keep saying it. There is a bad relationship that we have and misunderstanding that we have with the word love. And sometimes when we take that understanding, our understanding and view of love, and take it into reading the Bible, we kind of get a lot of things conflicted. That's not a view of love from the biblical point of view. A lot of things in the Bible actually even are translated to say love, because, or there are a lot of things that kind of refer to love that are translated in different ways, because it's a very complicated notion. You cannot love people that you're oppressing, right? I was listening to this professor who was talking about he was at the summit in the 1970s or so during apartheid era, and some of the guys who were championing the apartheid movement and that whole policy that was causing oppression to to the black people there inside this conference. Actually, if you ever get the chance to read up on apartheid, it's actually very interesting from a Christian perspective, because the apartheid, that policy itself came out of Christian people, and it was basically pushed from a religious standpoint, from a Christian standpoint. So they had this conference, and inside it, so this is a story from Nicholas Walter Stoffy. He's saying inside the conference, one of the people from, I think, from the tribes of the white people who were pushing for apartheid was talking to some of the black religious leaders and saying, why can't you guys be more loving? Why can't you guys be more loving? All you do is complain and talk about all the bad things that we do. Why can't you guys just be more loving? And this guy was saying, that's a very weird thing to say to someone you're oppressing. Why can't you be more loving? But it's easy for people to get away with saying such things because their concept of love is very wishy-washy and different. So you cannot love someone that you're not doing justice to. Do you understand? It's very easy to say love and all those things, how I love my community and I do this, I do that, but you cannot love people that you're not doing justice to. And that idea comes out in this, when we read this when Jesus says love your neighbor as yourself. This is love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord and keep my decrees. This is kind of like a how will I put it? It's kind of like a summary of all the things that come before it. So if we read, um, let's just read from verse 9. If you guys remember, we've kind of looked through this bit. We've seen this in Deuteronomy. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyards a second time or pick up the grapes that had fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. So remember, we've talked about this. When you read, in the Torah instructions, that something that is very difficult for anybody to be able to enforce. You will read things like "I am the Lord your God" at the end of it, just to let people know. Look, I know no one can enforce this, but I'm God. I'm here watching, right? So, and again, this whole concept of, have when you try to harvest your land, just go over it once. Whatever is left, whatever falls on the floor, leave it for the poor, the foreigners. And we've looked at this concept as how it applied with Boaz and Ruth and all those things. Okay. So that's seen as justice. It's your own land, the land that you worked hard and harvested for. Don't take everything on it. You got to leave some of it there. That's justice. Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another, do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. This is what it means by do not take the name of the Lord in vain. All right, but that's another. When they say don't say the name of the Lord in vain, it's basically don't use God to, when someone says God said and God didn't tell them anything, that's they keep putting the name of the Lord in vain. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. Do not cause the deaf or put the stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord your God. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly. It's very interesting. Rebuke your neighbor frankly so you will not share in their guilt. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord your God. So everything builds up to this. Love your neighbor as yourself. It tells you things to do for your neighbor and everything, how to go about putting justice. And then he summarizes it as love your neighbor as yourself, right? So you're sick. Once you recognize the humanity that is in you, try to see that in somebody else and love them. And that love is in terms of doing justice as well to them. It's not just a feeling or wishy-washy sort of things that we kind of see in English. It's like it's actual practical. All right, everyone with me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. And
Yes.
the same thing is it starts off and builds up again to the end where we get a second one about the foreigners that reside among you, love them as yourself. For you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So we get a lot of other laws about doing justice to people who are foreigners, people who don't look like you, and then he gets they will love them as yourself as well. So it's not just about the Israelites. So it breaks it up into two. So this is what Jesus is referring to when he says love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. So again, so this is the idea as well that inside of love, inside of love, there is justice. You cannot oppress or disregard people. You cannot tell somebody that. Actually, here's a perfect. I don't know if anyone saw this. If you're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you might have seen this. So you all know David Cameron, former Prime Minister.
Yes.
And he sent out a tweet, I think over the weekend, of himself he's been working in local food bank. He's been what do you call it, doing charity and giving his time at a local food bank regularly, serving there. And he tweeted this out as well. But here's the thing, and we've talked a little bit about it. The reason people need food bank is because of the things that David Cameron did.
Yeah.
So what are you working at the food bank for? Do you understand? And sometimes again, if we pull this out to a broader side of things, like when when we've looked through the Old Testament, especially we did last week, charity and our notion of charity is at the bottom, right? It's the last result. It's just the bottom of the thing. If you do justice to people, the reason why you need to give them charity is because of their own mistakes,
Ooh.
right? Their own mistakes. That's the reasons why we will need to do charity for
Oh,
them.
right. Yeah. I
Do you
see.
understand? If
Yes.
let's go back biblically.
Yes.
Planting, someone is not good in his farm. He's terrible farmer. He makes bad loans or bad investments. Okay, you do charity for him. But if you basically create policies and systems that allow rich to take stuff off the poor, make it difficult for poor people to go out there and earn a living, is important. Again, the Bible also, if you look at the way the economy that God tried to set up or tell them to set up, on the instruction he gives them, it is not just about handing people stuff, it's about giving people opportunity to go out to earn a living, because they need that dignity in there, right? You have to, when we talk about charity, we also have to talk about the dignity of people. So one of the books that I recommended, it's is on the WhatsApp group, is called When Helping Hurts. So you see some ideas of how to, how we can help people as well. So anyways, so again, you see stuff like this from Cameron, and we see this from a lot of people. We create policies, we create societies, communities that destroy people's lives, destroy people's way of earning money, destroy people's way of earning a living. Then they go out there and give money to charity. That is wrong. We should not do those things. Don't make any sense, and we should be able to see through such nonsense, right? So, okay, so one of the things again that leads us into all this is like, okay, again, it's easy again to criticize governments and all those other things. It's easy to stand on the side and also criticize government, but sometimes I'm not looking at putting David Cameron's decisions in this. Sometimes it's quite hard to be in situations where you have to make all these difficult decisions, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're going to try to look at some scenarios and just discuss them from different points of view and see what we get to from here. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one. So last time we were looking at this scenario in Germany, and it led to a lot of interesting conversations. We looked at the scenario where a food bank decided that they were only going to, because they were running out of food and couldn't feed everybody that came to the food bank, they were going to prioritize giving food to those who are let's say ethnically Germans, right?
Yeah.
So they would give those to the Germans, those who are foreign born. You guys have to go to the back of the line. And we kind of discussed that from different angles and seeing that. So now we're gonna go in another weird direction, and we'll come back to a different direction and just see how we react. So this one is actually weirder. So this is the this time around, you guys all of you are on a jury. You're all on a jury. So you have to come up with a decision on who is guilty and who is not guilty, or on guilt and things. But I want us to talk through this. So this is a difficult one. This is a true life issue. So this is a true life issue.
The jury.
This is a famous case called the Queen versus Dudley and Stevens. Okay, so there was a ship. This happened in this is a case that is used in law schools, and I think it's a good one for us to talk and see what is the just and right thing to do in this situation from all angles. And so there was this happened in 1880 something, so it's a long time ago. But it's an actual true life story. There's a ship that had 4 crew members, the captain and two other guys, experienced people, and they were all they are all experienced people. These guys, and the captain, and then there was a young boy who decided to come on as a cabin boy. He's homeless. He doesn't have he's an orphan, doesn't have a family, and he thought going on this ship will help make him a bit of more of a man. You understand? And he will learn some life skills. Anyways, they got into very difficult circumstances. There was a bad storm and there was shipwreck. So they all escaped on a little boat or dinghy. I don't know what it's called. They all escaped on the shipwreck on a boat, and all 4 crew members on this small boat, and they had some small kind of tuna, I think, that was left with them. So the tuna was going to only last. So for the first few days, all they ate was the tuna, and that lasted just a few days, and it was done. Obviously, they're in the middle of the sea, Atlantic. I think it's the Atlantic Ocean. They are surrounded by seawater, so there's no water for them to drink. They actually drank their urine for a few days. They actually drank their urine for a few days, and so here are the names: Tom Dudley, Edwin Stevens, Edmund Brooks, and 70-year-old boy Richard Tom Parker. So they were in a small dinghy on the South Atlantic. So they started to drink their own urine in order to survive. Anyways, the young boy, 17-year-old boy, Mr. Parker, he decided to, against the advice of the others, he decided to drink the sea water, and obviously salt water. So this caused problems for his body, and he was going in and out of a coma, and he became comatose. So the captain and one of the others, I think it's the captain, Tom Dudley, and Mr. Stevens, they decided that they should, as days were going by, I think they've gone up to 14 days now without food. As days were going by and this boy is comatose there, they decided that they should kill him and eat him.
What?
But Mr. Brooks decided no, that he can't consent to this, and he was really, really against it. But as days went by and hunger obviously ensued, the other 2 decided that that's what they were going to do, and they said a prayer over him. The captain said the prayer over the boy and used the knife to stab him to death, and then they started to eat him. The other guy, Mr. Brooks, who was objecting to it, he decided, well, it might as well, now that they are eating, he might as well join them, so he started eating. Anyways, on one of the days, so here's his testimony. I took out a knife first, offering a prayer to God to forgive us for what we're about to do, for this rash act, that our soul might be saved. And I said to the boy, Richard, your time has come. The boy said, what, me, sir? I said, yes, my boy. And basically he killed him. I think he wrote in his diary that on one morning while they were having breakfast, a sheep came across and rescued them. Obviously, seeing the scene, they were then arrested, and then Mr. Brooks, who had initially objected to the whole thing, turned state evidence against the other 2, and then this case was taken to court. So Now you're a jury in this situation. Where do you stand? How do you view this case? How do you decide?
My goodness. My goodness.
Oh, man.
So many layers. So many. My first what I was thinking is that first and foremost, they're all in the same situation, but for suddenly decide to eat the other, like what was the conditions like? Like
He was
I
comatose.
don't.
He was comatose. He drank salt water against the advice of the others. He was comatose in the boat.
Oh my god. Wait, let's try and think. It's comatose. It doesn't seem right. It's just it doesn't seem right to eat
Okay.
a body. What? Oh,
Yeah,
are you
but it was
You survival
survival.
a bit, please.
It was either he died or they died.
I don't know. Either he dies or they die. Is that what he said?
Yeah, because if they didn't eat him, then they would have all died anyway.
But a ship came.
So are you saying that that is fine that they should
I don't.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it was a
what are
survival.
you saying? You're saying survive. So no, okay. So in let's say you're a jury on this case. You're a jury on this case. Where are you going with this? Do you think that
Oh my god.
do you say okay, these people are guilty of murder, or
So
are you a bit more lenient because of the situation that they found themselves in?
can I ask? Did
Go.
they ask for consent for the? I know it
Okay.
sounds weird,
Okay.
but
Okay. Okay. That's fine. No. That's a great question. So how does that change your leaning? If they asked for consent and he gave consent to be killed and eaten, would that be okay?
it makes it easier to swallow.
Slightly.
No pun intended, yeah.
Oh yeah. Like it makes it a bit easier to
Understand,
To
yeah.
see
digest.
them in a cause the way I'm seeing the guy who suggested it is in a fishy light. Like I get he's desperate, but to go to the extent to suggest murder to someone who is maybe weak, it's baffling me. So that's why I say if he had maybe they asked for consent and he said yeah it's fine, then I'm like okay, well at least you. I know it sounds really bad, but at least you asked for consent and it happened. But so can I ask? So the guy is dead now. They ate him.
They ate him. Yes.
Oh, so they really. Oh. So you can't
But
even.
now you're saying consent, but he was vulnerable. You can't give consent when you're vulnerable because now your situation is not right.
Oh,
So
that's true, as
Okay,
well.
but okay, let's just if he was okay. So these guys were stuck in the middle of the South Atlantic, far away, no idea what is going to happen, no food to eat, no water to drink, nothing. So let's say the guy wasn't comatose. If they still had to eat somehow, they still have gone 14 days and counting without food, right? No idea of anything, no way to call. This is in the 18th something. They're on a small boat, nothing. How are they going to survive? Okay. So if they decided he's the weak that we want to eat him or someone, we have to eat. Will it make a difference if he said if he was able, healthy, and gave consent, yes, eat me?
No.
No, it will. It will make a difference, I think. Okay, but you tell your points, Abigail. Why?
go on,
No,
lawyer.
because initially, right, the person is comatose, right? They don't like is okay. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a 50-50 chance that he's gonna wake up.
Mm,
You don't know how long you're gonna be in this stranded in this boat for.
mm.
So
Mhm.
you just have to do what you have to do. Either all of you die
But
or
it's still like the way they did it as well. Like you actually killing is the act of actually
but
killing.
the person is already would you it's
But
comatose. So in
fair
a
enough. Okay, sorry. Fair enough. If let's say the man is passed away without the killing part, then maybe I'm like, okay, well, you had to do what you had to do. But the fact that you actually had to kill the person, finish
But
him
the
off,
person was in the comatose state, though.
I think if we were
So that-
deliberating this in as a jury, we'll be going for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks
Well,
without
there's
this.
a 50-50 chance that the person's gonna wake up.
Okay, but they were only out there for 14 days. I mean, Jesus did 40 days fasting, so they could have.
Wait, the other
Yeah, I
14
mean,
days.
14 days is not that long.
Come on, Emma.
But you don't, you won't know
Oh,
because
you
you're
know
on the
what?
boat. How can you even tell that how long you're actually being on the, how long you're actually, stranded for? You get to a point where you'll be delirious because you can't,
Yeah.
you can't eat, you can't drink.
But would you say that impaired their decision then? Because if they're delirious, well, if they were all hungry and so they just made a rash decision, isn't it? So maybe they themselves weren't thinking straight. And like, how can we justify like their actions if they weren't thinking straight? I don't know how to what I'm trying to say, but I'm just saying there were many factors to come to play for them to maybe even decide to kill the comatose person maybe in the first place. So point being, I don't know. This is a hard one, bro. So what are we deciding whether they're murderers? What are we doing? We're deciding.
Yeah, so firstly, will you say, if you're on the jury, will you say they're guilty of murder?
I mean,
they had the intention,
Wrongful death.
but they had the intention to kill him.
Did the guy consent though? I guess that would be where the difference comes in, right?
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but in some
No.
states,
No?
consent doesn't absolve you from the death of a person.
That's
Yeah.
true. And like I said, there's different factors that might have caused the situation to heighten. That's as hard, like. Okay, can we say if we follow the law, it's murder?
Yes.
If we follow, it's murder.
Yeah.
Manslaughter. No, not manslaughter. Murder.
Yes, murder. Yeah.
So let's follow the law. It's murder.
Yeah, but
Which law? Whose law? Whose law?
Jury adjourned.
Circumstances.
Which law? Which law is this?
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on what state this is being tried in, right?
Yeah, what law is this? This kind of sits like outside of the law in a sense.
Some law allows for extenuating circumstances, which we could probably agree that this is. Murder.
Yeah, but then where's the justice for the parents? Like, what do you tell the parents? Oh, your kids have extenuating circumstances. This is why your child is dead.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah, but
that's why the consent comes in.
The law.
He's an orphan.
Oh.
So he's an orphan, yes.
And they knew it.
Oh, this is so sad. Oh my days.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I'm just gonna be frank here.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna miss him.
She said nobody's gonna meet him anyway.
Miss him.
Missed him. Oh.
But you don't know that somebody might have had an interaction with him, even if it's one and been like that was.
But mind you, think about it this way: you're on the boat, like you have to think about all this stuff.
I've got a question. Actually, no, I've got a question. So if they had eaten him, and let's say the ship didn't come to save them, what are they gonna eat next? They're gonna start killing each other off, right?
It looks like it.
Yeah. So in that sense, this is it's like they're fighting for survival. I guess they wanted to survive.
Okay, let's do two things. Who is on the side of, okay, these guys committed murder no matter the situation, and who is on the side of, okay, I can see a way where I can be lenient or push get them off. I just want to see who is on either side, and I want to know your view of why you stand or where you stand.
Murder. I say murder.
You're for murder. So who is? I'm interested in hearing who is not. Who's gonna say I wouldn't go as far as murder.
Me.
I'd say wrongful death.
How is
Okay.
it wrongful death? They killed the person.
Yeah, they
Okay.
killed someone. I don't think they should get away with it.
But it's not
How is it
Because
wrongful? I don't
murder
understand how it's
murder
wrongful.
in some situations carries a life sentence or even a death
Okay.
sentence.
So you're saying more because murder is premeditated. But okay, how about if he gave consent? If he gave consent, is that okay?
No.
I think the consent makes it easier. I would say
No.
no, I mean it makes it easier for me to be like, okay, at least he gave consent, at least he was. But then I said, okay, fair enough. You're in a survival situation where you might not be thinking straight, so that consent might be standing on one leg, like you know what I mean. But I say it's murder. But there's a part of me that's like trying to justify it and saying like, oh, they were desperate. I'm thinking of Lord of the
Ring.
Lords of the Flies.
Flies. That scenario where it's just your human nature to survive is sometimes desperate, and you got to do what you got to do. But I'm thinking the one who raised up, the one who said that, suggested it in the first place, he should be the one they should investigate him. No? What do you think? I think they should investigate him. Because no one mentioned it, and now he wants to get involved.
The thing is, the justice. When we talk about justice, right, and righteousness from the Bible's point of view, we're talking about doing for others, right, and making sure other people are taken care of. So, in this respect, they weren't seeking justice when they all decided to kill and eat this guy, right? So
you said there was an injustice. Is that what you're saying?
I think that was an injustice in itself, right? Because the whole point of justice, from what we know, the biblical point of view, and we know that the laws, especially back then, were very much based in biblical principles. Then they committed an injustice by not looking out for this guy, because they were all looking out for themselves. Right?
Okay. Okay.
Yes, extenuating circumstances, but still, they were not looking out for the guy.
Let me I like what you said. Let me try to change things. So let's say all four of them were healthy, in good health, in good mind. Obviously, they've been on the boat, the days are counting, they've gone 14 straight days, no food, and they have no idea how they're going to get rescued. So all four of them, if they all decided, okay, we have nowhere to eat now, the only way for us to survive is to eat one of us, right? All four of them decide we have to eat someone in order for us to last a few more days. And how we're going to decide is that we're going to draw straws. Is it draw lots? Right? And they drew lots, and one person, so the person got the shortest straw or whatever. That person who got the short straw, that's the person that's going to get eaten. Will that change the way you view this case?
They all agreed.
It's true.
No, I'm saying, did they all agree?
Do you give are you giving the consent weight?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think.
I don't even know, man. This is like,
it's bad.
Okay,
I'm just going for my first reaction.
If I think in, or at least try to think, being in that situation, and this is just me now here trying to think in that situation. some form of logic will dictate that they will ensure that maybe the strongest one of them that has the best chance of surviving will be the one they look after the most.
So the one that has best chance of surviving should be looked after the most.
Out of all of them, to
Right.
at least get back to society if they have a chance, for at least one of them to have a chance to get back.
So how do they look after that person? They need food.
They'll sacrifice themselves.
I can't jump into the sea and fish or something.
There's no fish, salt water, nothing.
I'm
still fleshing this out as I'm saying it.
I've got a question, Arams. Are we coming from this as jurors? Are we using Christianity?
Well, no. The thing is, like you. I mean, you've been in church, you've been Christian for a life. So how do you see it from your worldview? Everything that influences you as you sit right now today. Bear in mind, remember, I don't know if have any of you served on the jury before. Have any of you be called up? If you get called up to jury duty, you have no idea what the case is. You have no choice. You just get called up and you have to go do it. And you go sit there and a case will come in front of you and you have to make a decision. So here it is, you're summoned, jury duty. What do you guys, how do you feel on this?
I say murder, by and by, is just murder.
So you are more than no matter the situation.
Yeah.
But
and what is the principle by which you make that decision?
Somebody is dead. They intended.
Okay.
They intended to kill the person.
Okay.
So in that essence, it's murder.
Okay.
You can't accidentally kill somebody.
Okay. So let's say they managed to just if they waited a few days and he was in coma from drinking salt water and then he died and then they ate him.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say in that situation?
He's dead. Natural causes.
So they are absolved of everything.
Yeah. The person is dead. It's not like they intentionally killed the person to eat them. The person died of natural causes.
It's kind of disrespectful.
But okay.
You have to survive somehow.
All right. So going back to you have to survive somehow. If you find yourself, let's say you find yourself in this situation, how do you expect them to survive? The argument that they make is, but we have to survive. How do you expect them to survive?
If there's an inkling, right, that you're going to be rescued, I just say hold tight.
There's no inkling. They're in the middle of nowhere. There's no sign of anything.
Either way, you just hold tight. Like, I mean, what else can you do? There's no food. There's nothing. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
So hold tight and just die. Is that what you say? Don't try to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Work together. Come with solution. No.
Of nowhere, right? Try and steer the boat somewhere, at least to see if you can find civilization on an island or something. That's what I can say.
To go in which direction?
Right.
Which way you going?
So you're asking people who have not eaten for 14 days to use the energy that they have to steer a little small dinghy and to look for an island that they don't know that exists.
Yes.
So that's you're asking them to do impossible things, no?
Or just stay tight. Like, I mean, at the end of the day.
Okay, I've got
you guys. So
go on.
Okay. Now that I'm thinking about the thing, I say that it's not right what they have done, because number one, if it's a bit disrespectful to eat a body, regardless if they have died by natural causes or they gave consent or whatever. I just feel like it's a bit weird. Number two is they should work together, because even though the guy became comatose, at least still just, hang in there, moral support. I feel like maybe you could have done something else to eat it, because now I say, okay, oh, the guy is praying as well, he's praying. So, prayer warrior, start praying for a miracle. And I showed you the miracle came with the ship, and then man wants to do things by his own way, and he went to go eat the thing when the ship is coming. Maybe that's just another side. And another thing is, would they have been able to survive if they just kept drinking their
salt water,
urine?
They have no water to drink for their body to produce urine. So your urine can only last a few days. You can't.
Why is man's need for survival such an important thing? Like, would you? I don't know.
Roberta, where are you going with that question?
I mean, like for you, in order to I don't want to be stranded. I pray, but it's a hard. I can't decide. I don't know. But in this case, I'll say the first case. I'll say murder.
Yeah.
For the basis that consent was not involved.
But if consent was given, what will you say? Not murder?
I would say if consent was given, how will we know in the first place? Because they could be lying.
Fair, but let's say we know for sure that consent was given. Something was recorded. He signed the contract. I don't know.
Oh no. If he did that, I would say, okay, this person maybe has a good heart and he wanted his friends to survive. So, in that basis, I see why they would have done it. Yes.
So not guilty if there's consent.
Not guilty for murder.
Okay.
Guilty for other things, but not murder.
Okay. Just who else is on that side? Not guilty with consent.
I still think they're guilty. I'd probably just maybe
lessen the sentence.
Yeah. Just because of extenuating circumstances.
So consent or no consent, guilty.
Guilty, but maybe not for murder.
Okay.
Wrongful death, manslaughter, something like that.
Who else is on that side?
Yeah, manslaughter. Yeah. If
manslaughter.
consent is given, manslaughter.
Yeah.
So either way, they'll be charged with something.
Yes.
No. Okay. Wait, hang on. You guys are changing the parameters of the case. You're the jury. You're the jury. You cannot decide what the charge is and what the charge isn't. The charge is murder. Is it so? Is the charge is murder? That's it. There's no manslaughter, nothing else. Is the person guilty of murder with consent and without consent? I just want to see where everybody is.
Yes, he's guilty. Of murder.
Yeah, guilty. Yeah. If there's no other,
with or without consent, or both.
Consent is still guilty.
Both now. Because the act of murder.
No.
Oh, Tolly said no.
No. Okay, what's yours?
Me, I would say. Sorry, I've got a cold. I would say that if there's consent, because it is extreme circumstances, I think you have to say that they're not guilty. Just imagine the thing that I think it's easy to convict them when you're not thinking about yourself. If that was you were about to die.
First of all,
no, I mean, I personally, I think I'd starve to death. Personally, I couldn't eat a person, but it's life or death, like literally life or death. And you can prove that there's consent. I think I'd let them off actually in that circumstance.
And now that I think about it, now that Tolly has enlightened me, the fact that they're gonna go to jail for something they did to survive, it's a bit mad when I think about it. Now that I think about it,
okay,
you're taking away freedom. Sorry.
Okay, just let me now ask. Okay, for those who are saying guilty, because of guilty with and without consent. What is your principle behind why you say guilty? Is it just the way you feel, or is there something deeper behind that?
I'm saying it's because, I mean, even if I give consent, am I really giving consent? Because in that situation, it just has to be like well, no one else is doing it, so I'm going to offer myself.
No, but think of the scenario I said. All of you draw, you all consent to whoever picks the short straw will get eaten.
Okay,
So
but it's
you
my
all
life.
consented.
It's my life. Like, short straw, not short straw. I want to live. So that consent is shaky. So,
You were lying
So-
then.
But the thing is, right?
Then you died.
But the thing is, if everybody thinks of themselves, just themselves, then everybody probably want to kill the person next to them, right? Just so they can eat.
Mhm.
Whereas if everybody thinks of the next person, then no one would want to kill the person next to them.
Mhm.
So for me, I would still say guilty.
You
Now
would
I've
still
changed
say
my mind
guilty.
again.
I don't even know which boat you're in.
No, I think it's guilty now, regardless.
Okay. I'm gonna. I've got Vondel. I just wanna just extrapolate your scenario a little bit. I understand that. So if everyone is thinking of only themselves, then they would
Let's say no.
but how about this? One of the crew member is thinking about everybody more than himself and decides, okay, kill me and eat me. I offer myself. Kill me and eat me. And if you don't kill me and eat me, I'll kill myself and you guys will have the option to eat me. I want to sacrifice myself so that you guys can go back, at least have a chance to go back to your family. What do you say as a jury member?
You see,
Not guilty.
If he was thinking of just them, he wouldn't even put that decision on them. He'd do it himself.
Okay,
Right.
so if he kills himself,
scenario, they are not guilty.
if he kills himself and they eat him, that's good. You're good with that.
Then they are not guilty.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
If he kills himself and they eat him, nah, you guys are wrong. You are wrong for that. You're
Why?
wrong for that. If you're gonna eat him, you should have done it yourself then. So then at least the murder is. Do you get it? So I think that the
Why?
fact that he killed himself, they should have eaten him.
No. But I'm not the one who told him to kill himself. He decided that he should
So
kill
you don't
him.
have your heart for your brother and your.
But he did.
That makes no sense, Roberta. How can you use your hands to kill that person, but then you're disgusted that the person killed himself and you're going to eat the person?
No. Hear yourself. He's feeling a type of way. He feels like he has to put you guys first, right? But you should also maybe see the heart of the man. It's no, I will not.
I think they ate the heart of the matter.
No, I don't know. It's a hard
Okay,
one.
but okay, cool.
Jesus gave himself, right? His self for us, right? Are we gonna say, oh, I care so much about Jesus, I won't accept his sacrifice?
Is that why you eat his flesh and drink
For
his blood?
Jesus. You're eating for Jesus.
Every person.
Jesus is the Son of God. That's different.
Okay.
Honor the sacrifice and make sure that it counts. Make sure it matters.
Let me snap my fingers.
Okay, but here's the thing though that you got. Okay, so here's the thing. So even in the situation where the guy chooses to kill himself and sacrifices himself, there is a possibility that he might have been manipulated mentally to offer himself to do that.
Yeah.
So do you make a case for mental manipulation?
Mental health.
Once you start stepping into that, yeah, you might as well just be like, you know what? It's murder through and through, regardless of consent, no consent.
Yeah.
Nah.
But okay.
Yeah.
So that to wrap I just want to know, like, okay, if you say guilty or not guilty, I want to know what's your philosophy or what's your principle behind saying guilty. So I've heard Rondel's one, which is okay, convincing, but it's shaky when you talk about if the guy offers himself up. But okay, who else? If you say guilty, Abigail, you're very strong on guilty. What's the philosophy or principle behind it?
Well, basically, they had the intention to kill. The intention is there. The intention is not mistaken. You're killing this person so that you eat the person.
Mm-hmm.
That's just murder. You're killing somebody. You're intentionally killing this person.
Okay, so you're saying just the fact of intentionally killing someone, that's it. That's wrong.
Yeah.
You've denied
Even though
someone
it's
life.
for survival, you're still
So
killing.
it doesn't matter what the scenario is. Just intentionally killing someone is wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Who else? And just to Roberta's claim, denying someone life is wrong, no matter the situation. Are you go on?
No.
Are you 100% against death penalty?
That's why I knew you were gonna say that. I was like, No.
Yeah.
If someone kills children and babies and all those stuff, are you against them facing death penalty?
You cannot be an eye for an eye.
What about the euthanasia? What is it? Euthanasia?
Euthanasia is different.
Okay.
Okay, that one's a big one. But I just want to see in this situation.
Yeah, I think the death penalty is quite cruel.
Mm-hmm. But
you just get the person, imprison the person and throw away the keys. They'll never see daylight again.
Okay. So you're fine with seizing the person's life as long as you don't kill the person. Okay. How do you distinguish between the two? How do you distinguish between putting the person in a jail, dungeon, whatever, for life, right? Basically taking away his life. How do you distinguish between that and killing the person?
That's deep. Let's go there.
Because when you're killing the person, you're taking away their life, as in the life is leaving the body. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas in the prison, they're still alive. You're giving them food. You're giving them water. They're just there. They're just not going to see daylight.
Hey.
They're not going to see anything. They're dead.
Yeah, essentially, the person is waiting for their physical body to die. But in all aspects of the world, the person is gone.
Not really, because you're still going to be feeding them. They've got roof under their heads, over their head, I should say. They're eating, not seeing daylight.
But I agree. But you're feeding the body, right? But in all aspects, you've taken away their life. You've just not killed. Just killed them finally, right?
But still, we're not intentionally killing them. So
okay.
The body's not living there.
Who else has a principle? Who else has a principle behind not taking away the person's life as guilty? No, if you take away someone's life, you're guilty.
If you take away someone's life, you're guilty. Regardless of consent.
Yeah.
Is that what
yeah.
Are you still talking in the scenario on the boat?
Yeah, I'm still going back. I want to know the principle. I just want to know the
I've got it.
principle
I've got
behind
it.
it. What's your principle behind saying guilty? I just want to know deeper principle.
I'm back to I've decided it's guilty. This is my final.
Okay, what's your principle behind that?
Thank you. Going back to Genesis.
Right.
God created man. Okay.
Amen.
So God can take it away the life. We should not have he can give it and take it. Right? I don't know if I'm quoting that right. But
Amen.
I'm thinking life does not, it shouldn't be up to us to decide to have that power of life and death in our hands.
Okay.
In this scenario.
Can I?
About the other ones.
Can I?
Okay.
Throw a point in.
Jump in. Yes.
No, I just want to say that I think that if we are basing it on the fact of somebody losing their life as the sole reason, then we're on shaky ground. Because just say a person gets raped by somebody and their self-defense, they kill person. That means that the person is guilty. But the problem is it was in self-defense, but they killed the person. And so therefore, if you're going to go black and white, that person is now guilty. Somebody robs your house and you happen in self-defense to kill them. Again, that person is guilty. I don't think that the principle based on just the fact that the person's life has ended can be a principle to stand up in different scenarios.
So I guess the key is that it's not black and white then, isn't it?
I don't think it's black and white.
So
yeah,
then
for me, my principle is just solely based on this scenario. Obviously, it will change depending on the scenario.
That's why I asked about the principle behind it, because your decision has to come from somewhere.
Right.
It's intent, isn't it?
Huh?
Intent is a big has a big part.
Okay. So you're seeing intent as the big part. So these guys, you can argue that they didn't intend to kill him. Situation caused them to kill him.
No, but at the moment they decide to, then they intend to.
Yeah.
Once you take that situation, look at the situation Tolu brought up, someone who is being raped or someone who is being robbed. In that situation, you're in a traumatic experience. Immediately you decide my way of surviving this is to kill this person. Is that not intent as well?
No, it's a reaction. In that case, is a reaction, because if, let's say, in the process of trying to get the person off you or away from you or whatever, you accidentally kill them, or you kill them, or you have to use so much force to stop them that they die. That's a reaction, not an intent.
Okay,
right?
So someone breaks into your house.
They're deliberating, how do we survive? How do we survive? You know what? We need to eat one of us. At that moment, that's a discussion and with intent and deliberation and all that kind of stuff. That is a completely different scenario.
Okay. Someone breaks into your house and you're there. Person has a gun, you're scared, you pick up your gun, sneak through. You've made that conscious decision to go pick up a gun or pick up a bat to smash their head or shoot them or something. There is an intent behind that, isn't there?
That intent is to make sure that they don't kill me.
So that intent is for survival.
That intent is for self-defense.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing? One small thing.
Go on.
In the Bible, like when I'm thinking of what Ali said, you think of wars, they go to battle and stuff, right? And then in wars, the people die, right? And then we hear like stories where God has led his people to victory over. So in that case, it's like the whole intent thing has a part to play. So I believe we can't base our decision purely on the action. I think we need to understand the whole, like the that's why we have, what is it, testimonies and things like get people
Okay.
to talk.
I actually like where you've gone with this. So let me ask another question then. With going off principle. So you've said as well that God should be the only person that has the right to take and give life. I mean, God is the one that created us, and He's the only one that has right to take life. And there is a Christian philosophy behind that, saying, everyone is created in the image of God, right? And we as Christians and we as human beings, let's forget Christians, human beings, we should all respect that. And that's the basis behind loving your neighbor as yourself, being able to see the humanity that is in somebody else, the good and the bad that you know of yourself. Even when you know about someone else's good and bad, you still see the humanity in them the same way you can see humanity in yourself, right? So in that regard, you kind of use that and say, okay, nobody's life should be taken from them. If I add a caveat from Vondel, with intent. With intent. Okay. So should we fight wars, whether to defend ourselves or not? Should we fight wars?
We should not initiate wars, but I'm gonna defend myself.
Like Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Russia initiated.
Yeah, as in defending is you have to defend, isn't it?
Okay.
I think, yeah.
So you all are all in support of having a war as long as the war is just.
No,
No,
we don't want
no
a war.
war. No war is just.
No war. Yeah.
But if there is no, if the option is somebody's coming to kill me, and they're not dissuaded from that by any reason or anything, I'm going to defend myself. No one should fight a war. But if everyone is of the same mindset that I will never initiate a war, I will only defend myself. If no one initiates, there's nothing to defend against, so there's no war.
That's fine. That's very noble. But here's the thing: when we have wars, and when people defend themselves, and we're talking of nations in this regard, we're not talking of individuals. We're talking nations. When nations defend themselves, they usually send their army out to go defend themselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So do you all agree that the nation should send its army out to go defend itself?
But those people volunteered.
Sorry?
Those people volunteered to be in the army.
It's a love for your country.
Okay. So the army itself is made up of people who are there trained just to kill other people. So should we have a group of people that are trained just to kill other people, even when no one is attacking us, in the hope that one day someone will attack us and we will send these people out to go kill them?
My Lord.
So my view on that is,
I know. I want you. Your view is the most important one because
as
obviously.
as an ex, as a veteran, and as a Christian,
we thank you for your service.
my view is hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Do everything possible for the best outcome, but prepare as much as possible for the worst outcome.
So
because we don't trust humans. It's true.
Okay. But actually, is it that we don't trust humans? I'm going Christian now. Is it that we don't trust humans or we don't trust God?
No, humans.
Hey, humans.
God, of course you trust God.
Sometimes you have, it's not all sunshine rainbows. You know, sometimes you have some
Okay,
issues
okay.
with God,
But
yeah.
if you're telling me you trust God,
Mm-hmm.
why are you preparing a group of people with skills to kill other people in anticipation that somebody will attack you?
Sorry, I
Because
said
humans are up and down.
yes. I watched the Moses and Israelites thingy. God is up there. He's in heaven. Yes, he's powerful and everything. But man can one day switch, and how can I explain it? It's like the earthly realm is unpredictable sometimes. I can't like you get like God. Isn't it that God used? That's why Jesus. I won't say that's why. But Jesus came. God came in human form to live among us. He could have just done something supernaturally or something, isn't it? But he came himself to live and experience what is not experience. I don't know that's not his aim. Obviously, we know it's to fulfill and stuff. But I think there's something significant about the spiritual, the divine, and the earthly realm when it comes to things like this. Like ever since Adam and Eve fell, we were finished.
Okay. Do you trust God to protect you or not?
Yes.
Of course. He can use the human means to defend.
Okay. So here's the question again. Should we train people with skills to learn how to kill other people in anticipation that one day someone will attack us and we'll have to use those skills to kill them?
Yes.
Even David, a man after God's own heart, was a man of war.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, so to
he
go
was training in the wilderness, fighting bears and lions and things, ready for when he had to defend Israel against the Philistines. God used him to do that.
Not really, though. Not really, but okay. Anyone else? Emma, I want to hear your view. I will come back to that.
Wait, what was the question again? Let's just repeat.
So, is it right for us? Essentially, is it right for us to train people with skills and equip them with why?
Because I was gonna go off Roberta's point. She was talking about the Moses, because you see, when Moses went up to talk to God, he left the people and he trusted the people that they would just be, worshiping, loving God. Next thing you know, he comes down, and then now he's seeing that they're doing idol worship and everything, and he's like, wait, what happened? I only went to talk to God. Why are you people suddenly changing hats and going to other people? That's why I think Roberta.
So because human.
Yeah.
Something beautiful about it. Yeah. Like, isn't it the whole thing about, sorry to cut you off, but God gave us free will, isn't it? That thing. We can use that.
I like that. Here's the thing now. I like that all of you have all gone to Old Testament examples. Isn't that very interesting? Not one person here has used the New Testament example to justify this. Why is that? Is it not interesting? So, okay, here's the thing. After the death of Jesus, after Jesus' death and resurrection from the cross, and Christianity broke out, Christians decided not to fight wars. So let me give you a thing. Before the year 314, and the year 314 is very significant for a reason. Before the year 314, there was no Christians in the Roman army. 0. By the year 400, 90-something% of the Roman army were Christians. So we can talk about what happened that made this change. But from the death, resurrection of Jesus and the expansion of Christianity, there's something about Christianity that made these people say, no, we will not be part of any army. They had a desire to defend themselves. War was right in front of them. Death, killings, all those things were right in front of them. I mean, these guys were getting killed, persecuted. So what is it about this difference about them that they didn't look at the Old Testament and they looked at something about Jesus and said, no, I'm not going to be part of war, army, any of these things. However, we now we live in a day and age where we pray for our armies to go out to fight war. Why? What is different? And remember, we're coming from a place where we should not have any intent to kill people, right? But there's no bigger intent than putting on the uniform, picking up a rifle, going on foreign land or not foreign land to engage and kill people. So how do we make sense of this? And just to add another layer to it, David and Moses and Joshua and all these other people, and maybe Deborah and all the other people, Samson, if you want, Gideon, all these people are not Jesus. Right? And even right there at when Jesus is arrested, Peter picks up a knife and actually strikes one of the arresting soldiers and cuts off his ear. And Jesus says, no, this is not the way that we go forward in this kingdom. So how do we then relate that to our time where it is commonplace? All of us grow up. So I'm not like trying to we grew up in this world and this ideology or idea that you have to have an army. How can you be a nation without the military, army, weapons, all this? How can that be? Right? So how do we marry those two together?
That's such a good point, Arams. Wow. I was just thinking, maybe is it like with the whole scenario with the Jesus thing, how he, Peter or whoever cut their ear and he put it back there. It's so interesting how you just brought that up, because now I'm thinking, okay, we shouldn't really train for people to kill people, other people. And another part of me is saying like, yeah, but you can't trust people. But then another part is like, if you put your trust in God, He will help you defend with like in a way without the need for it. But then another part is like, okay, but be aware, be sharp. It's just a lot going on in my head right now. Obviously, the good way would be to strive for peace. But...
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the thing as well. Let's if we break down the truth of the gospel, the truth at the center of the gospel. There's so many. Okay, no. A fact. Let's break down one fact. This is not the truth is a correlation of different facts, right? So one fact at the center of the gospel is this, as we Christians profess it. The God, the creator of the universe, decided to come into the world in human form, and humans killed him. And he didn't do anything to defend himself. Just think about that. Is a fact that is at the center of the gospel that we are ascribing to. The creator of the universe decided to come in to the world in human form, right? And we killed him. And he did nothing to defend himself because his death was going to be of benefit to us, of course. But a fact of it is that he just let it happen.
The advantage that being God himself that Jesus has, right, is that he sees
the end from the beginning
at once, right? So he sees the outcome. And I always refer to God as a master chess player, right? He sees all the moves before he makes them, right? So him allowing himself to be killed and crucified was his end game move. That was his move to end the game that started in the Garden of Eden.
In the garden.
So from that perspective, he has an advantage and a perspective that we do not have, right? That's his
I agree. I agree with you 100%. But I also want to take it to this place that the Christians that came afterwards, the Christian communities that came afterwards, they went out of their way based on what they knew about Jesus. And this is even including the disciples and the apostles who had first-hand contact experience with Jesus. They went out of their way to not fight, not be involved in any form of violence. Peter was right there, ready to go, ready to kill with his sword, ready for battle. And even he changed that. We've seen, if you read the book of Acts, you see the journeys and all the things that Paul had to go through as well. They saw something that says, no, violence, any form of violence is not the way. Now, obviously, there is a cost to it. And all of you are alluding to that cost, right? Sorry. Yeah. Great. All right. All of you are alluding to that cost, and that's fine. There is a cost to pay. But why do we see it differently than generations of Christians that came before us?
So, okay.
It's a genuine question.
Here's another question. So maybe not a question, maybe just a statement to add to the whole discussion. You're saying that those people decided after looking at the life of Christ that they decide that violence and fighting should not be a part of their life, or at least, they should not. Should not be part of their life. But then you said that some years later, 90-something% of the Roman
army. Yeah, there's something that happens in the year, the year 314. That's why I'm using that year as a benchmark, because something important happened there. So we can look into that, but something happens there that that changes things, right? But I just want to know, like, for us, how do we read the scripture and see? Actually, here's the thing: how do we read the scriptures and see, like, these people were people who believed in violence? Like, when Jesus is talking about getting on his throne, the disciples think he's actually going to go into a violent revolution and kick people down and actually take over as the king of the Jews, right? That's what they actually think. So they are used to that. I mean, one of Jesus's disciples is a zealot. Like, is it one of them, Simon or Judas? I can't remember which one of them. So those zealots are one of those people on the edges of society who have formed bandits to go and try and take over, kill the Romans and take over the society. So how do they go from that thinking to a point where they say, no, we don't do any of this? And the violence against them doesn't change. Now, this is the mentality they had. Now, we are in this society where we think most nations have a military, army, and all that. And we don't see any problem with it. Why is it okay for us that we sit in the church and read these gospels and still say, okay, this is okay? You understand?
It takes time, Arams. It's hard because we can try and preach it, but my mind went to terrorism. My mind went to robbing. Those who rob, those people who we have to reach them in some way, demonstrate God's love and da. But it's like from where they've been conditioned, they're bringing up. It's not gonna be an easy process. Like if we can pray that God has his works in them because he has the power to change the heart.
Yeah.
But I'm the way I'm seeing, I'm like, just it's like Vandel said. I feel like maybe it's better to prepare for the worst in the case of that you don't intend to use it. But if it comes down to it, it might be something that we as a people have to do now. Even though it's, I agree with you. I think it would be better if we able to influence other people to put down their weapons and change their ways, have discussions instead of fighting and everything. Like, look at Putin now. This guy don't listen to anything, and try and see an eye to eye. It's difficult. It's so, and I guess there's a bit of fear in us as human. Well, there's a lot of fear.
Exactly. No, but here's the thing.
That's where discipline and wisdom comes in as well, though, doesn't it? Like you need discipline, you need wisdom, and as much as we might have, as much as we have free will, as much as we have like so many things to our at hand as resources and stuff like that, it's the discipline and the wisdom to know, okay, when do we use it, how do we use it, and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's
the other.
Go on.
The other thing we gotta consider, right? The Bible says to look after the poor and the needy, the destitute, those who are marginalized in society. What if those people are being physically oppressed? How do we defend them? How do we look after them? Do we, like, if someone is coming and doing violence against the people that we've been commanded to protect and look after, how do we do that against violence?
Okay.
There are other ways.
Do we prepare? If there's no, by all means, I'm a proponent of exhausting every single avenue, right? But if the people who are doing the oppressing, who are oppressing the people that we've been commanded to look after, have no intention of reasoning. They don't want to reason. They don't want to discuss. All they want to do is to exert violence on these people, and we've been commanded to look after them. How do we look after them? Why? My way, what I think a good way of looking after these people is if we can defend them against the violence that someone is perpetrating towards them. How do we do that if we're not trained in a way that can combat or at least defend against that kind of violence? So that's my
your point is perfectly made, perfectly argued, perfectly reasoned. But here's the thing, and I want us to be uncomfortable with this. These guys that came, the early church, they knew the same thing too, right? Violence wasn't even a wish or, okay, if this happened. Violence was happening to them and the people within their communities, all forms of violence, right? And in the past, they had formed gangs and whatever to fight, but they decide now we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to put these things down, and this is the way. Now, I do agree with what you say, that there's a sacrifice, there's a trade-off, that something is going to happen, something unfortunate, people are going to lose lives, and these people were happy to take that trade-off. Jesus was happy to take that trade-off, right? But for some reason in our day and age, we are not. And so the other argument that could be put on it is that this is uncomfortable, and the whole point of all this and why we should have these conversations is that the gospel is meant to make, sometimes we read these things and it's just, oh, okay. The gospel is meant to make us comfortable if we actually think about the age and time we live in, right? And here's the other thing. If violence is on the table, even if it's the last resort, you probably take it at some point. So here, even when we talk about things like, okay, terrorists and this and that, all those stories come from a point of where do you start the story? You understand? There's this whole thing happening about this girl, Shimaima Begum, that went to thing, and people ask, oh, should she come into the country? How did she get to the point where her mind was in a place where she had to go there? Do you understand? Somebody, there's a quote, there's an African proverb that the child who the community doesn't take care of will burn down the village to feel the warmth. Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The child who the community doesn't take care of will burn down the village to feel their warmth. And
because
this is it.
Because there's a distortion in how they got to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, if we invested as much of our time to having peace, maybe we will not have to resort to violence. Maybe we will not do things that antagonize people to a point where they feel that they have to attack us. Maybe. I'm not saying that they wouldn't. Maybe, yeah. Human beings are human beings. But if we, if we actually, even just to even add this point to it, I think either the Jehovah's Witness or Seventh-day Adventists, they don't volunteer for the military till today. They're reading the same Bible that we are. Obviously, we're all getting different interpretations from what we're reading there. But they don't volunteer for the military till today. And there is something about us thinking, if we actually trained and put in societies that, okay, we're going to go as far as we can for peace, no matter what, even if it costs us something, what effect would that have?
Wow. It'll be better.
It's difficult. It's very confronting. But the truth is, that is the situation we see in the Bible. But we are living in a world where every country has a military. Every country spends money on their military. And this war in Ukraine, or because of this war in Ukraine, Germany, the whole world is like, Germany is like, oh yeah, we're going to start spending more money on our military. Germany haven't spent more money on their military since, the days that nobody wants to remember. So now Germany want to spend more money on their military, and everybody's like, yeah, that's probably a good thing. So how hard are we actually fighting for peace in this world? I know it's difficult, but that's the confronting thing about the Bible.
Wow.
But fighting for peace as well, the reason why that some people might find that uncomfortable is because also that confronts things like pride and stuff like that, which in some sense people might view as even harder than just resorting to violence.
Yeah, but again, things like pride come from how we've been brought up in society, right?
Yeah.
We go and watch movies about people fighting. You don't watch movies about people trying to keep the peace. Batman is he's beating people up. Everybody's going to watch Batman now, right? He's beating people up. All these movies about war, the video games we play about Call of Duty is war, fighting. And that's our pride kind of comes in from there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now, if I link it back to this thing we're saying, how valuable is human life? So the disciples, the people, like the early Christians, they said human life is so valuable that we don't care if we lose ours, but we will not do anything against another human life. That's how far they were willing to take it. That's how much they saw. So even if you want to kill me, I see the image of God in you enough not to kill you. That's ridiculous though, but that's what we read. That's what we're reading. I hope I'm not trying to twist anything.
Yeah.
But if you read those stories, that's essentially what is coming out of it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I think I agree with both you and One Dad, interestingly. And yours is the ideal. But actually the downside in one sense, in this world, as we all know, because it's not the perfect world, is that if we take the stance that we don't defend ourselves, then aren't the lives that we are potentially not defending just as valuable? So like, it's okay to do a one-on-one and say, like, I can say I won't fight and I'll sacrifice my life. But will I say now that I will sacrifice my life, my family's life? Can I make that choice for the people who I'm meant to defend as well? That's why yours is the ideal. But I just feel like maybe it's the way I've been conditioned, that as Vandal says, you kind of just have to have the army, but the focus should be on working towards peace in this world.
Yeah.
But then if I don't do the defense, then I am letting down the people who I defend.
Yeah, the argument that I have, as long as you have an army, you're gonna fight.
It can be a last resort. Like, you can literally leave it to the last resort.
Yeah, but you're gonna
if
fight.
your stance is a certain way. But ultimately, if you don't fight, you then let down the people. On one level,
but look at what is involved in an army. Is that in a sense you can say, okay, men, guys, let's take up arms and defend our nation. I can get that. Okay,
yeah, they'll lose because they're not skilled.
You can make that, but people whose job is to just get trained to kill other people, at some point you're going to use them, right? At some point you're going to use them.
So here's, so I've got two scenarios to think of. When who was it? When Lot was captured, Lot and his people were captured.
Old Testament.
I know,
yeah, I know. But the scenario was is it Moses?
Abraham,
right? Lot's uncle.
When
Lot was captured, he didn't have an army, but he had trained men. Being an army was not their primary function, right? They looked after the cattle and wherever else, but they were trained to fight. So when it was time to go and get Lot, when he was captured, he called on his trained men to go and get Lot back, right? So that scenario, I think, is, so it's not that you have an army that all you're doing is just training every day to fight, but maybe you have, it's not your primary function, but when and if you are called upon to defend yourself and your family and your fellow man, then you are able to.
Okay.
Right?
But
the other scenario, just before we go on, the other scenario, if did any of you watch Man of Steel? Man of Steel? So in that film, right?
Is that not Superman or something?
He's an alien, right? And he's got all these powers, but he doesn't kill. Up until one point in the film, where another Kryptonian, his whole intent was to kill humans and take over the world, right? He was trying to kill some humans, and Superman was trying to stop him, telling him to stop, and he was using his heat vision, and it was just inches away from killing some people who were scared. The only way Superman could stop him was to kill him. That was the only way. His whole intent was to protect human life. Superman's whole mission is to protect human life, right? And the only way he could do that in that moment was to kill General Zod, right? So my scenario is that your intent should never be violence.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally believe that you should be well able to defend the people you love and the people you're supposed to be looking after.
Mm.
That's my.
So me, as someone who's born in this world, I actually don't disagree with that idea. I don't. But the points that we make against that is this again, something that we've already said is, where do you start the story? So the story is not General Zod's story, Superman's story. How did General Zod get to the point where he wants to kill all these people? Now, here's the thing. Remember, we've outsourced violence to the state, and we know that the state has that power for violence whenever we need it. If violence is on the table, at some point we're going to appeal to violence.
Oh yeah.
And if violence is not on the table, is it possible that we will set up our societies, our communities in a way to make sure that nobody needs it? Because
that would need to happen simultaneously across all societies.
No, I get that. But wait, actually, here's the thing. There are countries that have no army. Do you know this?
Like what? Tahiti?
Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a nice, beautiful place. Nobody has gone to invade and take over Costa Rica recently, anyways, as far as I know. They abolished their army in 1960. I can't remember the year. But there are one or two countries, there are not many, that have no army or have no military in that sense. So what I'm saying is that, is it possible that we will do everything in our power to ensure that we never have to fight? I do like your idea that everybody is trained to be able, every man or woman, whatever, is trained to be able to defend each other. I get that. I get that idea, but this is not me. This is not my argument. The point I want us to sit and be uncomfortable with is that the people in the Bible decided that's not the way that they're going to roll. After they saw after they listened and heard from Jesus, because I went to military school, right? I understand the ideas of military and I understand it. And if I look at the world today, I get it. But I have to sit down with the fact that the people who sat with Jesus and the early Christians as well, they came out and said, no, we're not going to fight war. Remember Isaiah? In Isaiah, the lion will lie with the lamb, and nations will not rise up against nations and will not study war anymore. That's one of the prophets.
Oh, funny you mentioned that, actually, Arams. Sorry to cut you off really quickly. It's also mentioned in the Bible that we're going to fight, no? The end times.
Signs of the end times, nations rising against nations. Exactly.
It's
okay.
Inevitable.
But the Christians decided that they will not take part in the violence in there, and they were happy to give whatever it took to risk. They were happy to risk what it took. I'm not comfortable with that, me personally. I would like to, but this is the reality of what we see from the Bible. Now, when we want to appeal towards defense or anything like that, we have to go to Abraham and Moses and all those people. But when we look at Jesus, who is our example, will Jesus approve us? Do you think, and I suppose this is where we should end it, but do you think Jesus will approve us setting up an army? So do you think Jesus will approve us saying, okay, we're going to set up an army and train people with anticipation? This is not your thing of everybody in societies, every man or whatever is trained to defend themselves. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what we have now, where we'll set up an army, a navy, an air force, even people that fight underneath the sea and all those things. We will set all that up. in anticipation that someone will rise up against us. Do you think that Jesus will go? Yeah, Abraham will approve it. David, yeah, that dude is going to be on that. But Jesus,
you might say, like, why has your countenance fallen? Don't you trust in God? No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, when we ask about, anyways, we need to end, but when we ask about human life and the value of human life, how far are we willing to take this belief in we are created in the image of God? And what are we willing to sacrifice for that belief? Is the question. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with it. I've thought through this. I've wrestled with like.
Maybe we'll get to that point. Maybe there'll be a point where, you know, where the disciples felt themselves like, oh, you can take my life or something like that, like to the point to give up their own life for their brother. Like,
I know we can get to that point. I agree. Do you want to get to that point? Is the question. Yeah, that's the question. Mentally, do we want to get to that point that they were in?
Fam, we'll need the spirit. The body is fighting against it. Like I said, the body wants to survive. Naturally, it wants to survive. But it's hard.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, we gotta.
Oh, sorry, before we go, what's the conclusion?
With what? All right, the guys, they were found guilty. They were found guilty. But they were not given a long sentence, but they were found guilty. I think there was such a big media uproar, and there was a whole media circus around it, so it was going to be hard for them to just be let off. So they were found guilty, but it was a tough one, and they were given not very harsh sentences, which is another debate on its own. Should we be putting people in prisons for life and all that stuff? If we value life, but anyways, we don't have time for that conversation. I suppose this is kind of like where we can leave this justice thing. We can come back to it later. There's still so many scenarios that we can think through that can bring us to many uncomfortable places. Sorry if I put anyone on the spot. Just trying to drag stuff out and make us feel uncomfortable, because there's this thing. If you read the Bible and you feel comfortable with it, then you're not reading it properly. Very, 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 because we are raised in a worldview that is so very different from what Jesus is calling us to in every single area that we think of. I think when you read Luke 4, Jesus talks about the prisoners, that he came to set the prisoners free. Like, what? When you look about the sheep and the goats, he talks about, I was in prison and you didn't visit me. Like, what did you do to be in prison? Why should I be visiting you in prison? What did you do? But, so there's so many different things that if we look properly at the Bible, it's going to make us very uncomfortable. So, right. Cool. Okay. Let me close in prayer. We'll let you guys know what we're going to study, what we're going to do next. But we'll pause justice for now. We might come back to it later. There are many, many scenarios that we can discuss. All right. Thank you, Lord, for tonight. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for just being able to wrestle with a lot of these different things. Help us to continue to grow in our minds, in our understanding, and the view of your kingdom. God, just pray for your guidance and your protection. And in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Just thank you. We just give you all the glory. We give you all the honor, all the adoration that is due unto your name. Help us to be able to apply a lot of the things that we learn and the principles to our lives as we continue to grow. Let your name alone be glorified. In Jesus' name. Amen. Cool. Amen. This is where we're going to end the broadcast. Okay. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. How do I go?